welcome to my first video. If you're here, you've probably come over from my Instagram account, which is the Blog and Bride UK, and you'll also probably know how incredibly nervous I am about doing this. I've never had the confidence to do anything like this, putting myself out there on camera, but I've decided this year is the year that I'm just going to get over it and do it because it's something that I really want to do. So here I am making my first video. I thought the best way to do it would be to do a Q&A, get over my confidence issues being on camera, and it lets you get to know a bit more about the person behind the account. So I asked over on my Instagram stories for some questions to put in this video, and you were all really helpful and sent over loads of questions for me. So let's just get started. The first question, and I guess the most basic question that a lot of you asked, was to tell you a bit more about myself. So my real name is Louise. I'm 30 years old. I just turned 30 in June of last year. So yeah, I had to have my birthday during lockdown, which wasn't the best. But we made a really good day of it, and I actually had a really good time considering. I live in Cumbria, which most of you probably won't have a clue where that is. A lot of people don't, unless you say the Lake District, and then everybody says what a beautiful place it is, which it is, to be fair. I work in retail. I always have worked in retail, but I'm now doing this in my spare time and also setting up my own little business making greetings cards, so the link for that will be in the description as well. I'm a massive Disney fan, which a lot of you from my Instagram will already know. I love Disney films, the Disney parks, Disney books, anything to do with Disney, massive fan. Me and my fiance love to travel, mainly to America. We love Florida, it's our favourite place in the world. We haven't actually been able to get there now for about a year and a half because of COVID, so that is absolutely driving us insane. We can't wait to get back. The second question, which is one that quite a few of you asked, was how did me and my fiance meet? We actually met when I got my first ever job working in a retail store in our town. He just happened to already work there, and I applied for the job as a Christmas temp to make a bit of extra money while I was at university. We got on right away and just wound each other up constantly. I joked about how he was far too loud and you could hear him from across the shop, and he loved to wind me up about the fact that when I first started working on the tills I didn't know how the scales worked and had to ask for help. It didn't take long before we became more than friends. We started dating, and then 10 years later, here we are, still together. There was actually a really cringy moment in my exit interview for the job where the manager that was doing my leaving interview said that at least I'd found love even though I hadn't found a permanent job, which at the time was really, really cringy and I felt so awkward. But now it's actually quite a cute memory to look back on, I suppose. The next question was, when and how did we get engaged? Which is probably my favourite story to tell ever. I will tell it to anybody who will listen, and most people that I work with or that know have heard it a million times. As I've just said in the first question, we love to go on holiday to Florida. It's our favourite place and it really means a lot to us. So my fiance knew that it would mean so much more if he proposed to me in Disney World. So our first trip there on our own together was in 2014 in September, and it was our first night. We were in Magic Kingdom, and some of you might know there's a wishing well next to Cinderella Castle. On every trip that we'd been on together to Florida, we would always go to this wishing well and I would throw a penny in and make a wish. So on our first night we went to this wishing well and we stood there for a while, and there was other people milling around, and my fiance seemed really quiet. He didn't seem like he was in a very good mood, and then we ended up leaving the area without actually making a wish. For the next couple of hours he seemed to be getting more and more grumpy, and that was making me a bit annoyed with him because I was like, we're on holiday, why are you in a bad mood? But I thought, it's been a long day, we've been travelling, he's probably just a bit tired. Turned out he was actually nervous because he had the ring in the pocket of his shorts. We were going on all these rides and wandering around, and he's there with this ring in his pocket. So we went back to the wishing well at about 10 o'clock. There was no one else around. I was stood looking at the castle, and when I turned round he was down on one knee. Yes, I cried. I was obviously going to cry. I mean, it doesn't get much more special than that. Of course I said yes. And it was just the most amazing night, the most magical proposal I could have ever thought of. He knew that I wouldn't want a lot of other people to be around and for it to be a big show of it. He knew I would just want it to be the two of us, which is why he didn't want to do it earlier on when there was other people there. And it was just the best way he could have ever proposed. And he took all my hints and got me the ring that I'd been wanting, that I absolutely loved. So he did good. Question number 4 is, what has been the best and the worst things about wedding planning? Ignoring COVID, because that's obviously been the worst. The best things for me probably have been, 1, going dress shopping with my mum. That was a really good experience because I was really nervous about it to start with. I don't have the best body confidence, especially at the minute. But going dress shopping, the person that ran the shop knew exactly what would suit me. She let me pick out some dresses to try on, and my mum picked some out. But all of them that I tried on, they just weren't how I thought they would look. I thought I knew roughly what sort of thing I wanted, but I was trying them on and just thinking, no, these just aren't me. And then the lady who ran the shop picked a dress for me to try on and said just to humour her and put it on, even though it wasn't what I'd been looking for. And it was perfect. She knew what I wanted and what would suit me way better than I did. And it gave me such a confidence boost. It made me feel like a princess, basically. I felt so classy and confident in this dress, and it just really did make the whole process amazing. The other thing that I've loved is I've been doing a lot of the stuff for the wedding myself, DIY. So I made all of our invitations, I've made all the signage, the favours, basically anything that you could do DIY I've done myself, and I've just loved seeing the end product of all of that, putting so much effort into it and going from designing it to getting the things to make it to then finally putting it together and seeing it look how I imagined it looking, or sometimes even better, has just been absolutely brilliant. The worst thing, to be honest, there hasn't been a worst thing. There hasn't really been anything that's been particularly hard. I know a lot of people worry about doing their seating plan and who to sit with who and fitting everybody in and getting people on tables with people that they get on with. But that wasn't really an issue for us. We don't really have anybody that hates each other that's coming to the wedding, and I think everyone would get on pretty well with everyone else. So again, that was relatively simple once we had an idea of who was coming. To be honest, the worst thing for me was probably before we really started planning the wedding, and that was the thought of going to book our date with the priest for the ceremony. My fiance is Catholic and I'm not. And while it ended up being no big deal whatsoever, it was no issue, I was absolutely terrified that the priest was just going to say, no, you can't marry him. You're not getting married in our church. I knew it would mean a lot to my fiance and his family for us to get married in his church, and I'm not overly religious, so I was happy to do that. But I just had this idea in my head before we went to see them that he would just say, no way, you're not a Catholic, can't get married in our church, and that would be it. And I didn't know what we would do if that would have happened. But he was absolutely lovely. Both of the priests we've spoke to have been lovely. And it was no issue whatsoever. It was literally just, what date would you like? Yes, that's free. And that was it. But the initial thought of that has probably been the worst part of it all for me. The next question, and what I'm sure is quite a big one for a lot of people, is how have I dealt with postponing our wedding? I'm sure that's something that's on a lot of people's minds at the minute, and something a lot of people have had to deal with over the last 12 months. But we've had to postpone our wedding now 3 times. We should have been married in May of last year. We then moved it to August of last year. It was then going to be in April of this year, and now it's going to be May of next year, 2022. It's got easier every time we've postponed. The first time we postponed, it was March of 2020, and coronavirus was just starting to become a big thing, and people that we knew that were getting married were talking about postponing and moving their dates, whether it would actually happen. And the closer it got to the actual date of the wedding, the more we were thinking, what if it gets to right before the wedding and then all of a sudden it can't happen? What would we do then? So we made the hard decision in March, I think it was the 17th, to postpone our wedding, and I was absolutely devastated. After being together for almost 10 years at the time and being engaged for almost 6 years, I had dreamed of this wedding. We picked the perfect date for us. I put the date on everything that I'd made. We were so close, we were about 6 weeks out from the wedding, and we just had to change it all. And I was absolutely devastated. I didn't deal with it very well. I just sort of tried to ignore it. I focused on the things that I could do, like getting everything moved to a new date and getting everything reorganised and changing dates on things that had the date on them. But I didn't really deal with the emotional side of it, of how devastated I actually felt. I know a lot of people who postponed their weddings, that on the day that they would have been married, they sort of made an event of it, and they did something with their partner, or they did something as much as they could in restrictions with family or friends. But I just wanted to ignore it. If I could have, I would have stayed in bed all day and just ignored the whole day. But I didn't want to acknowledge that it was a thing. I was just too devastated to even think about it. Once the day had passed, it was a lot easier. I could focus on our August wedding date and how that was looking. But then obviously the nearer it got to August, the more it became obvious that while we might have been able to get married, we couldn't have had the wedding that we wanted. It would have been restricted to a certain number of people. We couldn't have hugged our guests. People would have to wear masks. We couldn't have a reception. And while some people have had absolutely brilliant weddings with those restrictions in place, it just wasn't what we wanted. So then we postponed it again to April 2021. But then it got to September and Boris made his announcement that there was going to be tougher restrictions put back in place and they could last for up to 6 months. Now that to me was just putting it far too close to the new date of our wedding, and I couldn't deal with another 6 months of wondering if we could get married, or if we did, would it be restricted in certain ways? What if it got to the week before and then they said no weddings again? So we made the tough decision to postpone it again, and we moved it to 2022. We did this just to be on the safe side, that if things in 2021 didn't improve, by having it in 2022, we would given ourselves that bit of room to just be able to relax a bit more and not be so stressed. And it really felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders after we did that. I felt like I could actually enjoy the idea of planning the wedding again and look forward to the day, rather than stressing and worrying and sleepless nights and everyone responding with, oh, fingers crossed, every time you said what day you were getting married. So I maybe didn't deal with it in the best way, but I'm glad that we got through it. And I think the best thing to do is just to deal with it however is best for you. Some people wanted to make a big thing of the day they would have been getting married and they wanted to mark the day. I just wanted to ignore it. So you just do whatever you need to do to be able to get through it and to be able to move on and look forward to your new wedding day. I hope that's helpful to people in some way that are either postponing for the first time or are thinking about maybe postponing their day. So moving on to a lighter topic and talking about things that aren't COVID. Someone asked me what has been the best part of 2020, which I think is a really good question, because it's so easy to get bogged down in the fact that 2020 was a rubbish year that you forget that there was probably some good things that happened for you in 2020. So for example, my 30th birthday, even though it was in lockdown, I had a really good day. My fiance decorated the house for me. I got loads of lovely presents and cards. We had a little sort of buffet tea that my fiance's mum sent over for us. We watched TV and had drinks and chocolate at night, which is pretty much my favourite thing to do anyway. Luckily, I got to see my mum on the day of my birthday, because that was the exact day that support bubbles became a thing. And because my mum is an adult living on her own, I was able to form a support bubble with her, meaning I could go to her house and not have to socially distance from her on my birthday, which was lovely. It made it 10 times better. We also managed to get a few days away. We went to a nearby area called Pasturewood Holidays, which if you follow me on Instagram you'll have seen me rave about. We stayed in one of their luxury pods and it was probably the best weekend we've had away in a long time. It was lovely just to get away and sort of forget about everything that was happening for a while. But as well as that, the pods were lovely. They're decorated so well, they're so comfortable, the views are amazing, and it did feel really safe. You didn't see any other people, everything was 100% clean, everything was really well organised, you didn't have to have any contact with anybody, and we absolutely loved it. We had the best time ever. If you want to know a bit more about it, I'll put the link to their website below. because I would definitely recommend it if you're thinking about having a few days away in the lakes. We loved our stay with them, and we've actually booked to go back again in April of this year, if we can, for my fiance's 30th birthday. We also got our puppy in 2020, which was probably the best part of the year for us. He's a little terror, but he makes our lives a million times better. We absolutely love him to pieces, and he really made 2020 brilliant. If there's one thing to be grateful for in 2020, then he's definitely it. We've wanted a dog for a long time, but it was just never the right time. We would always go away on holiday a lot or working too much, and then obviously 2020 presented us with the opportunity that we probably weren't going to be going away for a long time, and we would have enough time to really spend with a new puppy. So we decided to just do it. We looked into it, we decided on what would be the best kind of breeds for us, and then we found the perfect dog. So that's probably been the best part of 2020. Speaking of the puppy, a lot of you that know about the puppy asked how he's doing, and he is brilliant. He still loves to bite things, which I suppose is fair enough. He's a puppy and he's teething. We've just started properly toilet training him outside because he's able to go for walks now that he's had his injections. He loves being outside. He will investigate anything and everything. He smells and picks up every leaf, every twig. He sniffs every lamppost, every corner of a wall. But he absolutely loves it. He loves to run around outside. He loves just being in the fresh air. And it's getting us outside more, which is another good thing. He's got a lot of favourite toys that he loves playing with. He's a very playful dog, but he also naps a lot, which is pretty much the only time we get anything done, because when he's not napping, we want to give him all of our attention. But he's just so cute and adorable. He's a Pomeranian crossed with a toy fox terrier. For any of you who haven't seen him on my Instagram, he is probably more terrier than we were expecting because he's only a quarter terrier, but he's definitely got more of the terrier look than he has Pom, even though he's quite fluffy, and he's got a bit more of the feisty terrier personality in him. He's very much got the small dog syndrome, which means he will bark at pretty much anything. He wants to bark at every person, every dog, every car. He barks when he sees people walking past the window, because I'm assuming he's trying to protect the house. And he's very territorial, but he's also very loving, very playful, and just the cutest, most cuddly little dog ever. And we love him to pieces. The next question I got was, what am I most looking forward to in 2021? We have a couple of things planned for 2021 that I'm excited about, but obviously they are COVID dependent. So we've got my fiance's birthday trip to Pasturewood Holidays booked for April. We've got 3 nights booked there. This time we've booked a pod that we can take the dog with us, so that'll be really fun. It'll be his first trip away with us. And we'll get to celebrate my fiance's 30th birthday in a really good way. We've also got a trip to Florida booked, finally, for the end of September this year. And there's a couple of sort of anniversary events and different celebrations happening in Florida this year that we really want to be there for. But obviously it depends what the situation is in the UK, what the situation is in America, whether they're letting people in. But we are so excited to be able to get back if we can. Fingers crossed for us. I'm also just really excited to be doing a couple of things this year that I haven't had the confidence to do before, this being one of them. And my greetings card business that I'm setting up, I've wanted to do something creative for a long time and use my creative side to try and make a little bit of extra money. And this idea I'm really excited about. I think it's going to be really good for me, and I'm hoping that people like them too. So that's bringing me a lot of excitement for this year. I'm hoping that'll go really well. I'm also excited to see my Instagram account grow even more. I've got over 600 followers now in the last 6 months, which is way more than I ever thought I would get. And I'm just really excited to see where that goes and meet and talk to more brides to be on there. Now that I'm a 2022 bride, there's all those brides that are going to be getting married in the same year as me that I can share this journey with and share any tips with them or get tips from them if there's anything that I haven't actually already planned. And I guess the last thing is to just spend more time with family, hopefully, and get to see the puppy grow more and see what kind of dog he turns into. I'm excited for his milestones and for his first birthday. And I just think even if there is still some restrictions in place, this is going to be a really good year. I'm really looking forward to the rest of this year. The final question, and I guess I've probably already answered this in parts in some of the other ones, is did I make any New Year's resolutions? One of them, which I've already talked about, was to start my greetings card business, which is Happy Tears Creations. So I've already made a start on that resolution and I'm really hoping to push forward with it. My other one was to start this YouTube account, which as you can see, I'm starting. Even if it's a bit rubbish to start with, I'm doing it. So I'm doing what I set out to do this year. My other one is probably just to read more. I've always loved reading. When I was a kid, I loved to read. I've got a bookcase full of books to this side of me that you can't really see. And I got some more books for Christmas as well. At the start of lockdown last year, I actually really got back into reading. And I read maybe 4 or 5 books in the space of the first couple of months of lockdown. And I really, really enjoyed it. Once I start a book, I read it within a few days without putting it down. I just get so engrossed in the story. And I really want to do more of that this year. I want to try and work through all of the books I've got in my bookcase that I haven't read before I end up buying any new ones. So yeah, that's my resolutions. Let me know if you've made any resolutions. I'm really interested to see what yours are. And give me a couple of comments if you've got anything to say about my resolutions. I know a lot of people have probably got some book recommendations or some advice on this channel or on my business, and I'd really like to hear from you. So that's most of the questions that I got. Like I said, I'm really grateful for all of you that sent those questions in. If you've got any other questions for me, you can leave them in the comments or you can send them over to my Instagram, and in the future I'll maybe do another one of these Q&As. I'm actually thinking of doing a full video all about postponing the wedding, and I'm also thinking about doing a video about the different aspects of wedding planning. But if you've got any other things that you'd like to see me do, just let me know. And if you like this video, please give it a like, share it with people that you think might be interested in this sort of thing, and definitely subscribe, because I've got a lot of video plans that if you like this video, I think you'll like those as well. Thanks for watching.